And Donald Trump didn't like these numbers because they cast a negative light on his supposedly big, beautiful economic achievements. But, you know, Ronald Reagan used to say, facts are stubborn things. And the reason those numbers were revised downward was because of facts relating to the economy. How do we deal with it now? Donald Trump trying to cook the books and imperiling the credibility of some really important economic statistics that are the basis for business planning. You know, we tend to make a lot of the politics of these numbers. What is the impact on public opinion? Well, there are countless small and big businesses across the country that are trying to make decisions about whether to build factories, whether to hire more people, based on economic numbers that now Donald Trump really wants to rig. And we need to make sure the integrity of those numbers is accurate and credible, and that should be done on a bipartisan basis. So I've begun talking to my colleagues, just on the Senate floor tonight, about what we can do, whether it's worth some kind of inquiry on the part of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, where I'm the ranking member, whether we should do it through one of our other committees, but make sure there is oversight so that the firing of this career civil servant doesn't imperil the credibility and accuracy of these very, very important numbers.
You know, one of the things that you brought up the tariffs, right? So you have President Trump using tariffs in a way that no economist says works, right? Because it's a tax on the American people. He's also obsessed with lowering interest rates. He's talked about firing Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, because he hasn't lowered interest rates. But you lower interest rates because the economy is bad. Right. So my question to you is, does Donald Trump know something that we don't know about the economy? Is something bad coming? Is the recession actually coming despite what he's saying? Or does he have a fundamental misunderstanding of how the economy works?
I think he is just shooting from the hip. If he believes that the employment numbers that are in his head are more accurate than the numbers that these career civil servants are collecting in the real world, I think it is a real threat to our economy. And again, it goes to the decisions by the Fed on interest rates. If employment numbers are dropping and inflation is rising, the costs of groceries, toys, baby products, they are increasing because of these tariffs. He is in a world of denial, and that is very deeply dangerous to our economic well-being. For a president to have this kind of power and to exercise in such an arbitrary, draconian, and ill-informed way, I think requires that we as a Congress take a stronger role in protecting the Fed's independence, assuring that the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, the next one who is appointed, be a career professional with credibility, and that kind of confirmation be assured. And I'll say one more thing. I think the Secretary of Labor ought to resign. I think this is a resigning issue. For the president to interfere with the basic function of the Commissioner of Labor Statistics to assure accurate flow of information, I think is a resigning matter for Lori Chavez de Ramírez.
Senator, you said that you would hope that the next statistics chief would be someone who's a career person. Do you really have hope that Donald Trump is going to grab someone who is an expert in this, who's going to follow the numbers where they lead instead of someone who's loyal? Do you really believe that?
That's a key question. I have hope every morning when I come to work.
I'm sorry, Senator. Hold up, man. Senator,
I have hope I can grow some hair, but I know that ain't happening.
I'm a one day be a zero, but I'm not doing the work. So, Senator, I mean, Eugene asked a good question. The woman that, the career professional that the president fired today, she was confirmed by the Senate in January of this year. Even J.D. Vance voted for her.
Right.
So I think the vote was 86-8. Yeah. This next person is going to have to go before the Senate. I don't think there's any actual hope in the president because he said that he fired her because he believes the numbers are rigged. But what about your Republican colleagues? Is there any hope that they will grow backbones and other items so that they can maybe assert their constitutional authority?
If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have said I have hope. I have some hope in my Democratic colleagues, and I am going to fight as long and hard as possible to make sure my Republican colleagues hear from the business community that I think will impact them, because the business community doesn't want any cooking of the books, which is what Donald Trump wants to do. They don't want these numbers messed with for short-term politics. And if Donald Trump is smart, he will recognize that he's going to be president, I would say unfortunately, but it is the reality, for another few years. And at the end of the day, he'll be judged by the performance of the economy, not in the next quarter, but in the next couple of years. So to answer your question, and I apologize for the long-windedness, but I'm this close to the Senate, so it's an infectious, hazardous disease. I still have hope that my Republican colleagues can be impacted by the business community, by economists. And by the way, the reaction from the right-wing think tanks to this firing has been deeply negative.
So, Senator, before we let you go, I do want to focus a little bit on something that you've been particularly key on, and that is the report on DOGE that was released on Thursday. The key finding from the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations estimated in just 6 months, DOGE itself has generated at least $21.7 billion in waste across the federal government, despite its ostensible goal of eliminating government waste. The largest share, I should note, of that estimated waste was $14 billion in charges to pay approximately 200,000 workers to not go to work. Senator, to not go to work. So, thank you for your work in bringing this to the nation's attention. Speak a little bit more about the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations work here.
Well, thank you for the question, Michael. The Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation drilled down on these claims, as it turns out, false claims, by DOGE and Elon Musk. You remember the picture of him strutting across the stage with his great big chainsaw. As it happens, paying people not to come to work or firing people illegally and then having to pay them more to come back to work, or having food and medicine rot and spoil in warehouses because USAID couldn't do its job, or a variety of other ways that DOGE actually increased the cost of government to the tune of $22.7 billion, happens to be, again, real facts. And all of the claims to eliminate waste and inefficiency fall totally flat in light of the reality that we've established through our investigation. It's the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation for a reason. We want to tell the American people what the real results were of government policies. And Elon Musk is now seemingly out of the picture, but DOGE is still in the fabric of our government.